This is this spiral that I talked about once before that was discovered a few years ago by aerial photography, that if you put a spiral through the tips of the three pyramids, it comes around, forms the golden mean spiral, comes in here. And then there's another one that comes in here, which this guy didn't know about, and comes around and wraps around and forms another one here. The other one I talked about was the one with a little hole in the room that was next to it. This one, which is just a little, about a block away, has three, there's a controversy whether it's 3 or 4 pillars there. These people write that there was 3, but when I sent John Anthony West over there, he said there were 4. So I don't know, 3 or 4 pillars. But these pillars mark precisely the center of this place, and they mark this line. And they're out in the desert. And around all of that is a golden mean rectangle. So just the very placement of them has made this invisible golden mean rectangle on the desert floor only discernible from the air. Now this also forms a circle here, point Z. Oh. Well, just remember that point Z for a moment. I got one more slide. There is a ramp that goes off the Great Pyramid, and there's another ramp that comes off the Middle Pyramid that just misses the Sphinx. And there's another ramp that comes off here. They look like they're just at random and that there's nothing important about it, except that the ramp between these two here makes a perfect 30-degree angle. And this ramp points exactly to the phi ratio on the golden mean invisible spiral. Now what is it? So this makes sense about this as being a phi ratio thing, but what is this 30 degrees about? There is also a circle that passes through the 3 Great Pyramids, this large circle that's like 2-3 miles around. And what they have discovered now is several things recently. For a long time, they thought that the Great Pyramid was aligned north and south to the magnetic field. You've read it probably in lots of books. But when they checked it very, very carefully, they noticed that it was off a tiny, tiny bit. And so there's been speculation that it was continental drift over this length of time or something like that, trying to figure out why there was this little tiny bit off. And but what the computers have now found is that they don't believe that there's anything off at all, because the faces of the eastern faces of all 3 pyramids and the eyeballs of the Sphinx are all looking at the precise, exact spot on the horizon. In other words, each one is slightly turned and everything else like that, so they all converge on this very specific spot, which is where, at a certain day, I guess it's on July 23rd, and I don't know exactly whether it was at the time the pyramids were, they were built, or there's a certain factor here, I'm not sure, but they're aimed at the helical rising of Sirius, which makes sense anyway because all their calendars and everything were based on that, which is almost due east. It's off so little, you can hardly tell the difference. Well, anyway, whether you use the helical rising of Sirius or east could make a difference if you're looking at this as a calendar, but in terms of what we're about to talk about, it won't make a whole lot of difference. Anyway, you put that circle around there, and the 2 ramps that make the 30-degree angles, if you broke that circle up into 30-degree slots, you come up with 12 places. And starting from here, you could put the 12 signs of the constellations around there. We know they knew this because the constellation sign was at Dendara, clearly. The exact pattern was all there. broken up into 30-degree angles. And if you do that, it places the Great Pyramids between Virgo and Leo, physically on such a structure. Even though it was made a long time ago, that's where they physically sit. And this is where we physically are right now. What these guys were thinking was that perhaps they were placed there in that way, and that if you drew bisecting lines and possibly the lines of all the edges and everything else over onto across here, it would throw an entire spectrum of dates between Pisces and Aquarius. It may be that we have some kind of calendar that's happening here. They're still unfolding it all. I don't know where it's come to at this level now, but there's a lot of people real interested in this now, because I didn't even know it existed until just a few years ago. And it's interesting that we just became aware of it now that we are between Virgo and Leo. We weren't even. You have to be in an airplane, before you can even discover that it's there. And the Sphinx, of course, like I said, is half virgin and half lion, the two symbols of this whole thing. So you can work with that if you want. And the location of the Sphinx, which is important, appears to be just out in the middle of sand, out in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't seem, if you were not initiated, you wouldn't know that there was any kind of logic to its placement whatsoever. Except this invisible golden mean rectangle that's very precise around here, if you bisect it and put a line right down the middle, it passes exactly through the headdress of the Sphinx. And if you draw a line along the southern face of the this middle pyramid, it passes exactly along the right paw of the Sphinx. This is it. The edge of this and the edge of the Sphinx are in perfect alignment from the air. And the middle of the middle of the golden mean rectangle is exactly on this line, coming down, locating a spot right here on the right paw. This place has been marked from the air. Well, who's familiar with Edgar Cayce's predictions? What was the right paw? It was through the right paw that the opening would be found to the halls of records. The halls of records are all the proof of the ancient civilizations that have lived on this earth. When we first went there in 1985, we were told that we were working with the angels, and they made us go behind the Sphinx about a quarter mile, and there's this tunnel that leads to the Sphinx, and we were to put down this very special, certain kind of sound down this tunnel. It's a very interesting kind of sound. In fact, we have the only machine in the world that can make this kind of sound. It's a sound being converted directly into light. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that too much, but we put this sound down this tunnel for a couple hours, and we said, okay, that was enough. When we did that, and I'm not going to say I'm responsible for what happened with the Sphinx, but anyway, the Sphinx was absolutely straight. But when we went back there a couple of years later, the Sphinx was off on its side. It was falling over on its side. And the Egyptian government is, and I mean a lot, it's not just a little bit, it's way over like that. And what's happening is it's crushing over on its right paw, and the right paw keeps breaking open. And they keep fixing it, patching it back up, and it just keeps leaning onto it and smashing open and breaking open. And the other thing that's happening is the head is falling off. And someone told me a long time ago, eventually the head will fall off, which is a real important, when that happens, that's a real important date in history. And there will be a golden sphere in its neck, which is like a time capsule. It's about so big around, which will, when it breaks off, half of it will be exposed, so that they'll see it immediately. But right now, they're doing everything they can to keep the head from falling off and the right shoulder from breaking open anymore. And eventually, and I believe that it's either already happened or still in the process, but I think at this point it's already occurred. There will be 3 people from the West that will enter into this doorway right here. And there is a physical door right there behind those stones. And go down a circular staircase to a room below, which they know the room is there. The Japanese have located it precisely. And over in the corner will be a clay pot, but the Japanese say there's also a coil of rope, and I don't know what that is. But the clay pot holds on it the information for those 3 people of how to proceed. And from there, they will have a very interesting experience that will lead them through a long tunnel, deep down. And I don't know if I want to describe all this, but all 48 chromosomes of Christ consciousness, which are geometrical images, will be etched high up into this wall, one right after another, beginning with the flower of life. And soon after that, they will emerge into a room where the records are held, the physical records are held. I believe, I'm not certain, but I think that that's probably already occurred. Though time will have to tell on that one. I'm not going to go into the whole story of it with this group right now. I don't think it's appropriate. But this, what I'm about to talk about, is more important for this group. The shape of the room, by the way, the halls of records looks like this. These areas, this would be the floor pattern, and these raised areas and around there will be where the objects will be found. There are 3 schools in Egypt. One is the left eye of Horus, one is the right eye of Horus, and one is the middle eye of Horus. The left eye is the feminine path, the right eye is the masculine path, the middle eye is the child path. The left eye, which we're going to talk about right now, we've been talking about the right eye, basically, but we're now going to just lightly discuss the left eye. The middle eye you can't really talk about. It's just life. That's all it is. It's just life. It's applying the left and the right eye. Here again, you'll see these 2 eyes. This is a better one here. And this is the symbol for metamorphosis. This is the symbol of the ibis bird, and the sphere, the oval, is the symbol for Chikitet or Thoth, and it's also another symbol for the right eye, the male training. And this one over here, the bee with the plant stalk, if you can see that there, is another symbol for the left eye of Horus, or the feminine path. These are names, and this is the star Sirius and eternal life on either side of them. Either path leads to eternal life through the star Sirius. You have to pass through that star from their particular way of thinking of things.
Where was that found?
This is the Cairo Museum. It's a capstone off of one of the pyramids. Not one of the Great Pyramids. Just a pyramid. I really don't know which one. Just one of the pyramids. There's a lot of pyramids in there. In the belief of the Ankh, you see the Ankh down here. The belief of the in the Ankh is that the Ankh is the key to eternal life. It's one of the primary major pieces to the whole thing. And there, according to Thoth, the Ankh can only be received from behind. I'll explain what that means in a little bit, but you can see here where the Ankh is from behind. He's also holding the three tools of resurrection. This is Osiris, and this is Isis. These are the actual tools, and these are King Tut's tools. These are the real ones, of the frail and the hook. Anyway. And this is one of the rare photographs of this holy family actually using these tools. It was a tantric practice. Obviously, there's sexual energy involved here. And this is Isis and Horus and Osiris. You see they're holding the Ankh. Horus is holding the rod to the back of his father's head, to this chakra point back here, which has the 45 degree on it. They must have the tuning fork pretty well already figured out for him, because they're not using the frail to tune it with. And look what he's doing with the hook rather. And look what he's doing with the frail. He's holding the frail with a single finger up like this, so that you can tune the vibration precisely down the spine. So you can get down there. And then as the sexual energy rises, it moves up around in the form of an Ankh in a certain way, which leads to eternal life from their point of view. I'll talk about this exactly a little bit more, what was really going on there. Here you see Isis. This is another person here, where Isis is giving the understanding of eternal life to him through the breath. Same thing here. And she's gently holding his hand, and she has not just the sphere over him, but a red oval, which is the egg of metamorphosis, communicating to him that through the breath he will he will change physical form to a different form. This is out of Memphis. It's a new temple they just discovered when I was there. This is the ground level up here, and this was only about 4 or 5 feet under the ground, and this is the top of about a 40 or 50 foot pillar. So it's a huge temple that's totally buried. And this is Hathor. Only Hathor is not a single person. It is a race of beings, according to Thoth and to the ancient writings. And Hathor, there's a Hathor race, and they live on Venus in the 4th dimension. Very much like the dolphins, they're tall. They're 10 to 16 feet tall. The females are about 10 to 12 feet, and the males are about 14 to 16 feet tall. And they function almost totally with sound. The sounds that they can make with their voice can do just about anything. And the dolphins are real similar. They function almost totally on sound also. And they're on real similar levels of consciousness, though they have very different physical forms. And they're just pure love. They just love people. They love everything. They don't have a mean bone in their body. And I did witness one of the people I was with had an initiation with the Hathor, where they had to learn what the sound of the Ankh was, and it's a continuous sound that you do for about 2 hours. One continuous sound where you never stop. And you know, like the Aboriginals do the didgeridoo, and they learn how to make a sound that never stops. You can do the same thing, but there's a sound you can make that they teach you that once you get the sound going, the sound just never stops. You learn how to breathe in through your nostrils and out through your mouth, and some of the air goes into your lungs. So you never have to ever breathe. It's just one continuous in-breath and out-breath at the same time. And if you don't think that's possible, then talk to an apparitional. They do it all the time. I had someone who, you can train. The training is a simple way of training is you put a straw into water, you start blowing bubbles, and you learn how to blow bubbles continuously without ever stopping. Anyway, the Hathors, I'll talk about the Hathors later. They're pretty good people. And this is the temple that was dedicated to Hathor. It's the, it just slipped my mind. Dendara, yeah, right, thank you. It's Dendara. That's Katrina Raphael. I don't know who that is. And somebody came in there and destroyed all the faces of the Hathors, all these pillars that go all, and so there's inside are these huge, huge, huge pillars with Hathors all around them. It destroyed all of them.
Do you know why?
I don't know. The Christians that came in saw all of this as evil, and tried to destroy a great deal of it. This was pagan to them, and like I said, a lot of it was. It was a cult. It was not certain aspects of this, because of the mistaken idea that each one of these Nephers were gods. Let me even go much deeper than that. In here, I want to talk about the story of Isis and Osiris. I think I did describe, right? The whole thing, he's cut in 14 pieces and brought back the whole thing. And that she flew to him, and it shows this hawk. She turns from a human into a hawk and flies to him and wraps the wings around the penis. And then immediately after that becomes pregnant with this baby, which becomes this hawk-headed baby, which is Horus. And through the birth of Horus, the three of them become immortal beings. Very much like what happened with I and Taye and Lemurian. Well, let me just make an introduction to this. Again, we don't believe, most people don't believe that immaculate conception can take place. But let's look at the evidence. First of all, immaculate conception takes place all around you, every day, all the time, all over the place, in nature. All over. There's all kinds of plants and trees and insects that do it all the time. Lots and lots. I don't know how many. It's probably in the hundreds of thousands of them that are capable of doing this. Now just pick one so you can see clearly the image of what I'm saying. And that one is the bee that we're so familiar with. The bee, a female bee, can make a male bee anytime she wants. She does not need to mate with a male bee if she wants to make a male bee. She can just say, I think I'll make a male bee today. Make a male bee. But if she wants to make a female bee, she has to physically mate with the male to make the female bee. That's the arrangement they've made. Well, let's look at this. Let's look at the family tree of a male bee. A male bee only needs a mommy. Now this is fact. This is not, I'm not making this up, this is fact. The male bee only needs a mommy, but the mommy needs a daddy and a mommy. But the mommy needs a mommy and a daddy, but the daddy only needs a mommy. But the mommy... and it comes down in this funny-looking tree, right? Okay. Well, when you come over here, there's 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and you see the Fibonacci sequence unfolding. But if you had the family tree of an animal or anything else that is not using Immaculate Conception, it comes down 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and it's the binary sequence. The two primary sequences of life. One is male and one is female. Peter Seehoff, Carl Ilminster announced in 1977 the successful birth at the Jackson Laboratory in Bar Harbor, Maine, of 7 single-parent mice. The process was called parthenogenesis, or virgin birth. However, immaculate conception would be a more accurate term since the female does not have to be a virgin. 2 people took animals and took a female and got the female pregnant without any interaction from the male whatsoever. Zip. And made virgin birth mice. That was the first time it took place. Only in 1977, recently. All they had to do was to take the ovum and to stick a little pin through it, and mitosis began. No sperm at all. Nothing. And now, since then, they've done it with all kinds of things. Rabbits, and everything like that. And humans. They've done it with human beings. There are virgin birth humans that have been done in the laboratory. I've even talked to the doctor who's done it, which was in North Carolina, one of them. Though we don't hear about this stuff too much. We don't know that this kind of experimentation is going on. And in the old journals of before 1900, in medical journals, they claimed that some females had a particular gland that could excrete an acid, and that acid would begin the process. And I asked him about this, and he had never read the journals, but he said that from everything he knew about this, there probably was no reason why an acid couldn't work as anything that broke the surface. So it could either eat through the surface or break the surface of the ovum, and the birth process begins. However, when a human baby is born from immaculate conception, or parthenogenesis is what it's called, it is a female, always, so far. And the female looks identical to the mom, because that's where she drew all the genes from. All of them came from her. And as far as they know, the female is sterile. As far as they know. Is she really sterile? Or is she now only able to mate interdimensionally? She can mate physically all she wants. If she's an interdimensional being now, she won't be able to mate that way. She'd have to mate interdimensionally. There's so much that is not learned about this. The other thing that they're discovering is that the length of time of birth, instead of being 9 months, is about 10 and a half months. And my wife believes that she had an immaculate conception. Before I met her, she had not been with anyone. We didn't have any reason for her to not say this. It didn't matter. She had had children before, been married and everything. But she said that with the last baby, she hadn't been with anybody. And when she got pregnant, she didn't believe the doctor. She went to another doctor, and the doctor said, "Yeah, you're pregnant." She didn't believe that one. Went to another one, and I went to 3 doctors, and they all told her she was pregnant. They thought she was crazy, and it took 10 and a half months for the baby to be born. And when the baby came out, and even now, it is like a mirror image of her. I saw the picture of her when she was 2 years old, and I had the baby there when it was 2 years old. I remember sitting in front of this picture of the baby and the image of my wife when she was 2 years old, and I couldn't even see not even the slightest difference at all, not a thing. I sat there for a long time looking at it. It's like nothing. And there's a lot of women today in 1993 who are, at least in 1992 there were anyway, that that are having 10.5-month pregnancies, according to this doctor in there, because we discussed this whole thing. There may be something going on in this right now. We don't know. I mean, I'm not saying any of this is true. All I'm just saying is this is what is known so far, and you can make up your own mind about all of this. I remember at one point when it was Thoth who wanted me to put this out and study it, and I remember at one point Thoth, while I was studying some of the geometry, I was sitting there and I was trying to figure something out, and he's just sort of sitting here watching me, and I was trying to figure something, and he was just sort of making conversation. He said, or there isn't really any time when he just makes conversation, but he said, "Would you like to hear a story about my mom?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I'm sitting here trying to figure this thing out. And he said, "Well, this is actually right before, because at the time I didn't know why he was trying to tell me this." His mom's name was Chikutet. Chikutet is a title. It's kind of like Rinpoche, which means the precious one. Chikutet means the seeker of wisdom. And Chikutet means the holder of wisdom. And he said his mom, right after the race was created, she was one of the first ones that became where they could have children. And while all the other ones were mating physically and having babies in the binary sequence, she elected to go in another way. And she found this man that she fell in love with, but they made love interdimensionally, without physical contact, from two different places. There's still orgasm. There's still a lot of things that go on, but it's a different kind of connection that's made. And she became pregnant. And in having this baby, the same thing that happened with Tai and I, they became aware of their nature and their relationship to God, and they became immortal beings. And only when her husband, put it another way, the baby was a boy, not a girl, like we would get through parthenogenesis in this one. It came out a boy. And when the little boy grew up and became an adult, then the father knew what he was to do, and he left his body. He let go of it and migrated to Venus and became part of the Hathor race. Took on a Hathor body and changed evolutionary patterns. This is a story. You can take it as a myth or whatever you want to take it as. And then the mommy mated interdimensionally with the son and had another baby boy. And then when that baby grew up, then the son dropped the body and went to Venus and became part of the race. And the father then left Venus and went on through the sun, right into the sun to Sirius, and became part of that race. And then this process continued on. And then when they would keep mating, having another son, that son would go to Venus, next one would go to Sirius, the next one would go to Pleiades, was the next level out. And they kept going out, and from Pleiades it was till Aldebaran. And the original father kept stretching further and further and further out in consciousness, while the mother stayed anchored to Earth, all the way up until the time of Atlantis, where Thoth's father's name was Thome, and Thome and his mother had an interdimensional baby, which was Thoth. And when Thoth grew up, then Thome left his body and went to Venus, and then Thoth and his mother interdimensionally mated and had a baby whose name was Tot. Now, according to the Egyptian records, Tot was born of Shizat his wife, he broke the lineage. He got married. Thoth married a woman, and for the first time, and who was Shizat, and they assumed that the baby that was born was from them, all taught. But according to Thoth, it's not true. It was from the mother, and then later when Thoth went to Peru along with Shizat, they had a baby together down there, a girl, born of physical contact, and began a binary sequence pattern as well as the Fibonacci sequence pattern from the same lineage. And I just listened to all that stuff and I didn't know what to think about it. I still don't really know what to think about it. Perhaps there's more in this universe than I know. I don't know. Though I think that there is, if you do study the world's religions, right back to the core of who they are, you'll keep coming up with the same thing over and over again. A brother, it's usually a brother and a sister mating to form a child who becomes the leader of this religion. So in his case, it was a mother and son. And so I don't know what this is all about. And you can just look at it and think about it. But it's real. It's really real now. It's really possible. It's not that it isn't possible. It's absolutely scientifically proven beyond any doubt. It's real.
But we haven't been able to scientifically find a male from the Immaculate Conception.
No. But I think the reason is because she's not really interdimensionally mating. It's a mechanical device to get the process going. Whereas in real life, it's a real male and a real female interdimensionally mating. And that creates a male. That creates a male. Another thing that's just happening right now, today, right this very minute, 1993, is that they've just discovered that a big law has just been broken. They've just discovered that the number of chromosomes, we've always thought that 23 chromosomes came from the female, 23 chromosomes came from the male, right? Isn't that what you're all taught?
Yep.
It's wrong. Absolutely wrong. They've proven it beyond any doubt whatsoever now. It just isn't true. Any number whatsoever can come from the female, all the way from 23 to all 46. And in fact, usually more come from the female than from the male. And he contributes a certain amount, and she fills in the rest. And this is what they've now discovered. This isn't like in the last 2 months. They now know this.